Hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite, Written Ralph, talking to you straight from our show here, Apple Bites, where we take a bite out of the apple and share it with you. And today we got a plethora of people hanging out with us. Of course, our ghost hostess, the Queen of Darkness herself, Shannon Michelle, is hanging out with us. And of course, we also have Roman Tony doing his Roman thing. Folks, it is going to be a fun night. We're going to have a lot of fun. And I'm telling you now that get ready to get your pocketbooks and purses ready, because you're going to want to get a lot of the stuff. Oh, man. All right. Let's see. Let's set this up. There we go. Ready to go. All right. And you know what? Let's get this started. Maryanne, Garrett, why don't you guys start off and tell the people who you are? Give them the spiel, because I like what you guys got going. Go for it.
So, hi, I'm Maryanne Cullinan. This is Garrett. And we are the founders of Tabletop EDU. And we are looking to bring role-playing games to more people, especially children, in the classroom and outside of the classroom. We're specifically right now about to launch our book on Kickstarter, Adventures in Teaching and Learning with ttrpgs. Now, there's a lot of books out there that are campaign books or that are directions and, books that will help you do a specific role-playing game, but we want to help parents and teachers and camp counselors and librarians and everybody who's interested learn how to do this work, not exactly tell them what they should be doing.
Right.
Yeah, it's sort of like a DMG for teachers to use TTRPGs in the classroom. So, a lot of people are like, oh, we can't wait to use your system. It's not a game system, but it's sort of like a guide with different frameworks and examples. Our philosophy is, tabletop RPGs are so rich and dynamic, and the learner's needs within different contexts at different levels are so varied that we don't think we wouldn't be comfortable like selling a particular system or like, here's what to plug and play. And teachers know this. And parents know this too, with their kids, like what they're ready for. If you try to bring tabletop RPGs to your kids, it's always like, just like with your friends, every group of friends is so different when how you play. So that's this first product, which is really kickstarting our nonprofit group, Tabletop EDU.
Can you give us like an example of how this would work?
Sure. So I'm a classroom teacher and about to be a PhD in using role-playing games in the classroom setting. Right. And so it really depends on what you're looking to do. But when you're using a role-playing game in the classroom, you really have to start with the form follows the function, right? So we start with, what do I need the kids to know and be able to do? What kinds of things can they do now? What's fun for them? What do I want to make sure we focus on? Right. And then we sort of put all that together. And in the book, we're going to kind of go through it step by step to really help you develop that. There's also some fun NPCs and some interesting settings to help teachers and, everyone expand what they're thinking about. So we don't always get that same tired old, quasi medieval Europe trope going on. And there's lots of research and things like that. So you can kind of take the pieces that you want to help you with what you need to do.
So you're not really, like you said, not giving a certain system. You're just trying to give them tools they can use with whatever system they want to use.
Yeah, and I would argue that in a classroom setting, most of the time, established systems have so much of their own baggage. Right, their own history that they're not really what you want to do. Right. In a club setting or something else like that, then something like D&D might be perfect.
Yeah, and Maryanne and I have kind of we're like the double-headed giant of the Tabletop EDU, and we overlap in a lot. We have a lot of agreement, but then our emphasis and our focus is a little different. So my interest is really in like how D&D or tabletop RPGs wholesale really help young people. And so I'm much more interested in like, how do we take like an off-the-shelf product and how might you modify it slightly? Like if we were to take Strixhaven, I don't know if anybody's played the Strixhaven or familiar with the module, which is sort of like the Harry Potter setting that Wizard hosted. They had a crossover to Magic the Gathering. So if you take Strixhaven, or another one I've worked with a bit is Candlekeep Mysteries, right? The OG that if you've played Baldur's Gate 1, this is where you start out, which was my foray into Dungeons and Dragons way back in like 2000. So if we could take some of those off-the-shelf modules in like a after school program, or if you're like running them with your kids, like middle schoolers or high school kids, how might you modify them slightly to really get a lot more bang for your buck for young people? So one of those is like inviting students to like putting more parameters up there for creating characters. So I do think, just to step back, just playing D&D is so great for young people. Like one thing that's not talked about a lot is how much just reading and writing happens when you play pen and paper tabletop RPGs. Like it is so good for literacy and for being able to just it's kind of crazy, but you talk to like people in high school or college, and they'll tell you a lot of kids have a hard time. More and more kids have a hard time reading. Like it's hard to get them to crack open books. They really struggle to read. If we were to go back and really look at just old school pen and paper and what it takes to navigate like Dungeons and Dragons, it actually takes a college. These books are written at a college reading level. And what's so fascinating is that when you get young people, like more and more are today, who want to play the game, because they're so motivated to play, they will work through those difficult blocks of texts. They'll figure out what it means. They'll learn through context, and they'll get out dictionaries. They'll talk to friends. They'll use this whole network of resources to bear to try to figure out how to play this game. And as they play more and more, they're going to get better and better. And so there's some great, my research in my master's degree was about video games and learning. And so the interest from that research was about like World of Warcraft. And they were looking at these young guys who were failing high school, like English language arts. But when they gave them a standardized test, they had scores off the charts. They had like almost perfect reading and writing scores. Like, what's going on with these young guys? Right. And they were playing so much World of Warcraft, which is actually a really text-heavy game, that they're able to get that literacy practice. So an example would be like some basic adjustments you could make to some of these games to give students more opportunities to practice reading and writing. So you might offer more kind of like in-text letters or media that they need to decipher. Like Strahd famously does this when you get a letter that invites you into the game, right? You're invited to the wedding, the vampire wedding, right? We want to do more of that kind of practice where they're actually not just rolling a D20 to say decipher a script, but you actually work out a puzzle or a script for them to work out in the game. And so those are sort of two different aspects of how we offer like skill practice within tabletop RPGs. They're either actually practicing the skill, like solving a problem, like a reading or a writing task that you give them, or they're learning to kind of take on that task in a role play way, but that still is, so maybe they are rolling a D20 to do like a research check or to solve a problem or decode a spell, but that's situated within these identities that are really powerful for young people to take on. So taking on identities like, instead of, maybe taking on, like Maryanne was saying, like a medieval, like a cleric or a warlock, which is fine and good. You could give them opportunities to play in settings where they're taking on STEM jobs, right? There might be an environmental scientist. They might be a field biologist, might be a computer engineer. They're hacking a system. They're collaboratively solving problems. So you give young people all these opportunities to try on different roles and explore different careers, which is something that tabletop RPGs do really, really well, but traditional school really doesn't do very well. We teach the content, like, the subjects you might take are really good at teaching like the particular book knowledge of an area, but they're not very good at teaching students what it's like to try on these different careers. And that's just a limitation of how schools are kind of built and organized. But what's cool is tabletop RPGs being able to kind of take on that role. It simulates it in a really powerful way, especially if they have time to do the role play and build their character, that it actually might change their interest in those careers in the real world.
It makes total sense, because as you're playing D&D or you're playing any of the role-playing games, you start to pick up things as you play the game. And of course, the whole role-playing aspect of the game itself lends to a plethora of different things when it comes to learning and going through things. I know one of the big things with D&D or any other role-playing games, it's a great place to be able to role-play things that you may be going through in real life. And as a DM, I always realize that what happens with the players is they all play themselves, but in a different way. So it's them going through something and they're working something out in their head. I don't tell this to most of the players because, they think they're playing something else, something unique, a whole other character that has nothing to do with it.
Well, there must be a reason that almost every single middle school's parents are dead. Middle schoolers' parents are dead. They're characters, right? No parents. Everyone's parents are dead. They're all orphans. They're all tabaxis or dragonborn. They're all rogues, or they're princesses who have run off because they're not like other girls. Right?
It's the rule for like every anime. Your parents are either dead, not around, or they're terrible parents. It's one of the three.
Because one of my other hobbies is writing plays for my middle schoolers, and when the parents are there, then no fun happens. You're not allowed to go off and become an adventurer when your parents are there. But speaking to your point, one of the things that's really wonderful about role-playing games in any setting, and especially in a classroom setting, is what you were saying about role play. You get to try out all sorts of different things in a setting that has high emotional value, but low risk. Because if you burn down the orphanage, no actual orphans are harmed in the making of that fire. Right? And so when something really horrible happens, it can impact you, but it's also kind of funny because it's not real and it's a little titillating, right? But when something really great happens, you have that same emotional reaction that would happen if you actually, did something. And this allows kids to try out different things and see what would happen and learn how to be part of a group, how to work collaboratively in a way that if they make a mistake, they also have some alibi. Like that it's their character, right? And we can be like, your character can't do those things. And really we're saying you can't do those things. But it allows you to hear that without an ego piece to it, right? And that's really great. And I've actually done a lot of research on this. And when I spoke with teachers who use role-playing games in their classrooms, they describe what winning in school means changes. So when you are in school in a regular classroom, it doesn't matter what happens to the other kids. You're either in competition with them or you're in a solo quest to get that A or whatever. Or maybe you don't play at all and you just get an F, right? Because kids who get Fs and kids who get As know the same thing. It's a game. And kind of a crappy game, but it's a game. But when you use a role-playing game or any other kind of thing that causes these kinds of bonds to happen, now my party's success is intrinsic to my own success. And so it makes sense strategically for me to be patient with other kids, for me to learn how to communicate with them, for me to work collaboratively. And students who might not be super successful in the do what the teacher says game have really interesting ideas and are able, you're able to sort of work in a different kind of a way. And that's a really special kind of thing that doesn't typically happen in a classroom setting. Although you might see it on the sports field or, in another setting outside of school.
Yeah, because there's a reward when it comes to working together, and you have people who will play, especially you see this as a DM all the time. You have people who will play and they'll be like, well, my character wants to do this or my character wants to do that. And then what ends up happening as a DM, you end up giving them, well, because you did that, this happens.
Right. Logical consequences.
And then they have to deal with those
parenting too.
They have to deal with those consequences, or they have to deal with their friends or the group of going, what the hell are you doing? You're messing this up for us.
Absolutely. And in the book, we talk about some norms that we always set up, right? The only rule for me as a DM is your character has to want to be there. Right. They have to have bought in to doing the thing. And because otherwise it's not good storytelling. It's not interesting to derail the story over and over again because, little Bobby just wants to sit there. So
it's funny that you're saying that, because one of the things I tell well, you want to play the character this way, then you have to figure out why is your character there. Why exactly. is he with the party? Because he's not with the party just for the hell of it. He's with the party because there's a reason he's with the party. You have to figure out that reason he's with the party, and you have to keep playing with that reason. You can want to leave the party as much as you want, but there's a reason why you're staying with them. There's something you're getting from the party that's making you stay there. So and that seems to always help out, because now you're like, okay, so I do want to leave, but at the same time, there's a reason. Maybe you've gotten some kind of gratification from the group. Maybe you've actually made a friend in the group. Maybe you've actually there's something there that's keeping you there. What is that? And that's then you have to play that out at the same time that you're playing out that you don't want to be there.
So,
and no, you're speaking right to. I don't mean to take this one, but I'm jumping at the bit. We have this framework we build out called transformational play. It's a 3-part framework, and it was inspired by research in video games and learning. But the first component of it is called player with intentionality. And the idea is that we help set up all these tips and tricks of how applied GM should go out a little bit differently. And so one of the suggestions I make in the book are, don't just throw off in recreational TTRPGs. We kind of do like one session of character creation. We give them some creation notes, and then they kind of start. How I run it based on a lot of the problems we're discussing we actually spend like 2 weeks before we even get into play. And I invite the players to take a lot more time in crafting that character. And I work in small groups and one-on-one with those students to really help them become a co-creator of the world. And I want their character to be really rooted in the world. I want their character to have this feeling of familiarity. I invite them to, for instance, build an NPC that really matters to your character. Maybe it's like a mentor or a friend, or maybe it's like, Batman's who's the butler? It's this game.
Alfred.
Yeah. I rolled a 1 just now, but you get it. So characters, all of these, of course everyone's got the tragic Batman backstory, but then there's other people in that character's life that really matters. Then as a GM, I can incorporate that backstory and those NPCs into that world to make them really care. Or what we end up is with this problem we're discussing, which often happens in tabletop RPGs, especially with middle schoolers, where we get people who are on a rampage, right? Yeah. Who just kind of want to run and do their own thing. So inviting them to become a player, helping them become a player with intentionality is one of the first components of
That's a perfect explanation there, though, because Batman is a loner, but he cares for people. He cares for the orphans that he's picked up. That's the reason why he's picked them up. And, so it goes to exactly what we're saying. Batman is going to care for these people who have similar backstories to him.
Well, one of the things also that's really important is this transparency of we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Right. One of the norms that we really like is good leaders need good followers, and good followers need good leaders. Right. Because ultimately, we want adults to pick up this book and learn and craft things, but then hand it over so they can go and do this good work in the world. The kids can without the adults. And so, right, eventually. And so that idea of good leaders need good followers and good followers need good leaders. If we were playing a game and the kids are, the actual students, not the characters, are being crazy, you'd be like, good leaders need good followers. We're trying to play this game together. We can't do it without you. We have to be on the same team if we want to make any kind of progress, right? How can we help you do that? And that gives a reason to buy in as a person. And in that same way, we say, well, good followers need good leaders. I, as the DM, or whoever is the DM, am making a commitment to be prepared and make it interesting and make it be something that you are capable of doing, right? So it's that's my half of the commitment. And if I haven't followed through on that half, this happens to my students sometimes. They're like, I just need to look this thing up. Why is everyone running around? And I'm like, well, mostly because you're looking that thing up and it's boring, right? So there are ways too that we can directly address this with kids and teach them, well, anyone really, but teach them why being a murder jerk is not a good idea. Speaking of that, so I think the term is murder hobo sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we also have coined the term in our D&D group at school, flirter hobos, which are the same thing, except they want to flirt with everything and kiss them because they're middle schoolers. And if we can come up with a good rhyme for the one about getting pets, that's the next one, right? Everything is my pet or my boyfriend, or I kill it. Mm-hmm.
Well, they're playing things out, so it makes sense, and that's exactly what's on their mind at the moment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's the same thing when you're DMing for a group of people. You know, like I said, people will play stuff and then go, "I don't know where this came from, Ralph." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I'm like, "Yeah, you know where it came from, but you're not thinking about it."
Well, and it's tabletop RPGs are really having a heyday in applied psychology and psychiatry, counseling, and therapy.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 5 years ahead of us in education, maybe 10 years ahead of us. There's a couple organizations working on this stuff. There's a lot more publishing on it. There's a lot more people really practicing with it. There's a group called Geek Therapeutics, which is one of the ones that's kind of run away with it. I did a course through them. It came up in my algorithm about 2 years ago called How to Become a Therapeutic Game Master. And so I was so fascinated with this idea. I paid the money. I took the course, and I just wanted to learn. I just wanted, what are they doing in there, right? How does it work? And so I think I shot out like $800 for this course. And it was awesome though, because it was all taught as a tabletop RPG. So we got to create a character that had some therapeutic benefit to us, right? It was cool. Like I got like $800 worth of therapy out of going through the course, which was really fun. And I got to kind of learn about, what they're doing on that side of the farm and how it works for counselors and therapists. And so we're trying to do something much more mainstream, much more like for learners, right? For educators. And so there's other groups that have been formed focusing in those spaces. And we're trying to kind of bring it more towards like mainstream instructional design. And so there's a lot of other products out there looking at like special areas like neurodivergent students, how to work with students who are struggling with like socio-emotional skills, social skills, that kind of thing, which is interesting. And we touch on a little, but we're much more interested in like bread and butter. Like how can this benefit educators and students and parents of all stripes?
And that's the way to do it. That's what I'm saying. Like, as soon as I saw what you guys were doing, I was like, I got to get these guys on the show.
No, thank you. And
it's super fun to be here, and we can talk about this literally all day.
Yes.
It's really neat. We're about to start our tabletop role-playing game club at my school. There's 215 kids. We've got about 45 of them signed up so far out of 215, which is pretty good. We're taking over. But because these kinds of games allow kids to have semi-structured social interactions that you don't get necessarily in other places unless you're like an athlete, right? If you're on the soccer team and you're the striker, you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing, or you're center field, or you're something like that. But if you're not an athlete, or you're not a theater kid who has this exact part, right? These are some opportunities for you to have a lot of fun and also get some supports in how to make friends and meet new people. And so it's really exciting to see a large group of kids be interested in this.
I got to say, like, well, it's funny that you're saying all this, because one of the ways I started to teach writing, because I was looking for an example of what writing is. And I came upon the fact of when you're playing D&D, what happens is in the beginning, you play as your character. So you're creating this history for your character. And then, this is like the basic of writing. So you're doing this basic thing where you're creating this character and you're writing his story. Then, it's almost like that's the first step. And then as a DM, you start working in this big sandbox, playing around with all these rules and all these things. And it makes you a better writer, because now you're beginning to understand the rules and all of the stuff that's happening. Then as a DM who does their own homebrewed stuff, you become the author. Yep. You are now creating, because you understand the concept of these sandboxes you were playing in, and you understand what you need to do to make this story work the way it needs to work. And it was one of the first times that somebody was like, "Oh, wait, that makes a lot of sense," And it was a good place to explain writing without having to sit there and go through all the complicated stuff about writing. It was a good way to just go, those are the steps. You've become creative, you get more creative, and then you are finally writing your own stuff. And I always say that playing in other people's sandboxes is an important thing as a writer, because especially because you're supposed to keep writing. It's supposed to be something that you do. And I know a lot of people get upset with me when they go, "Hey, Ralph, I want to be a writer. What do I do?" And I go, "Write." And they go, "Oh, you're gatekeeping." I'm like, "No, I'm telling you the truth. Just write. Write whatever it is. Write whatever is coming into your head. The more you write, the better writer you become."
Well, and that's so true of a lot of things, right? And I think adding on to what you're saying, for children and teenagers, this ability to do perspective taking from other people is amazing. And right, and that's really what you're saying too, that the players and the DM, they have to take everybody's perspective. And we really like to think about things like, okay, you murdered, right? Because they're like a humanoid, they have language. You murdered a goblin.
Right.
So who's the bad guy here? Is it the goblin? Right. And so then you loot the body, and there's like a picture of their 18 kids, and it says, "Daddy, thank you for sending me to piano school. I know you can quit your third job soon." And they're like, "Oh, maybe I'm the butthole." Right. And maybe the problem is
to me, it's still a goblin. Gotta die.
Absolutely not. Well, it depends, but I think that's really important for students to think about. Right, when I go and I trash this village and I go into this temple and I take all the stuff, am I the hero?
Not at that point.
Whose stuff is that? Nobody wants that stuff. So
maybe they left it.
And maybe they did. But it's super interesting to watch kids think about that for the first time. Right? Like, oh, wow, the goblin had a family. I mean, maybe he still needs to die. Like, fair enough. But that's
what
weird.
Was he doing
right?
prior to?
I'm happy you said that.
But that's that perspective taking and being like, oh, maybe I'm not always right. Or maybe the thing, right?
Or you're just making good lawyers.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Goblin Slayers. I'm not Goblin Slayer apologists. We don't do wanton destruction of entire races at my table unless they really deserve it.
They got to do something. I gotta say, like, this also goes into comic books and comic writing and comic books in general, because it was something that helped me as a kid become a better reader, a better writer, because you have these comic books that were out there and you're reading them, and I know that since ages and ages, the industry just likes to jump on top of comics, but it gives people a chance to read something even if they're not reading. Especially if they're not reading, it's one of those chances where, oh, it's a comic book. Yeah, it's a comic book. It has pictures in it, but you're reading these words. There's words in this comic book. Especially when I was a kid reading Fantastic Four, and they would be like thermonuclear, whatever, and it was stuff that you had to look up, and I was like, by the time I finished reading the Fantastic Four, I was like, hey. These are some interesting words.
Just growing up, like through elementary, junior high, I was always lucky that whenever there was reading time, like there's so many times where I would bring in comic books, and teachers would say, "That's fine, you're reading," and they would let me give everybody comic books, and everybody read. Some kids would ruin my comic books and get angry, but whatever. But I mean, now I read so much, and now as an adult, like when I'm I'm working in a regular 9 to 5, and I write emails, and they're like, "Why do you write so well? Why do you write so well?" It's like, I read comics like every day, and yeah, so.
Well, the normies are catching up because graphic novels are a huge hit with kids, and they're really just collections of comics. Yeah. It's that same idea, right? Mm-hmm. And where it's a novel that has been made into a comic, really. And that is huge. And it's a huge sort of gateway into novels, but it's also it doesn't have to be, right? Yeah. It's okay to have pictures.
Yeah. And people always like get upset with you. Pictures. Well, yeah. It's not real reading. And I'm like, man, I'd rather read a comic book version of The Phantom of the Opera than read The Phantom of the Opera again.
That depends. Because
no. You don't understand. I read it the first time. I read Phantom of the Opera the first time. It's not an easy read. Same thing with Don Quixote. It's not
right. But I mean, it depends. It's case by case. I mean, there's sometimes where I've read the book and what's going on in my imagination.
Oh, it's better.
It's so much better than when I see the comic book adaptation. So I'm like, So
sure, but one of the things that's really interesting too, though, is sometimes pictures allow for you to inference,
right,
in a way that it doesn't say it in the text, and you look at the pictures and you can get more information about what's going on.
Yep.
When there are those basic readers, like Bill is up, Bill, up. There's so much more information about it in the pictures, but yeah, and it's really neat to sort of circle back around to role-playing games. I like to, it's amazing when they start making fan art of their own stuff.
Yes.
Or they come in dressed as their own characters.
Oh, definitely. Love that.
Right? Or any of that kind of stuff. It's amazing because they're starting to think like that. And you know that it's sort of taking over their minds.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you had said earlier, and stop us when we're, because other folks are here to lead their conversations and talk.
I'm learning a whole lot, man. I didn't know role-playing games were in school, so this is cool.
Wait, one question before
I've never really even played role-playing games, but it's cool.
Before we continue, Wham, what about the sidekicks? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Oh no, I was just referring to if you're not a hero, you're a victor. I was like, well, what about a sidekick? They're just hanging out, I was
they're heroes too, though.
Hang out with the chat.
Bystanders, upstanders. I don't know, man. But you don't have to start role-playing games as a kid. I also never played role-playing games until like maybe the last 6 or 7 years, because I was like a girl in the 90s. So I wasn't really invited to the table. So I became a theater kid instead. Right. And so, but yeah, I mean, the world is full of 30 and 40 somethings who think that they missed their chance to play role-playing games. You just got to find each other.
Well, that's what you see now. It's like this huge boom, and it's everywhere. And it's funny because, I grew up at the time where, reading a comic or playing D&D got you beat up. And then, I told these stories and they're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I got beat up for. I was a Spanish kid reading comics, playing D&D, and heavy into heavy metal. This was not a good place.
Well, my children get to live in a world where they had to cancel basketball practice because the D&D club was using the gym for its Christmas party.
Wow, that would have never happened.
Right? Ever. Right? It's so delicious.
That would have never happened.
Times are changing.
Times are changing. Steve, let me ask you this, because you're a writer, right?
Yep.
So we're talking a lot about how the images and the writing and the comics all come together. But as well as I do that when you're writing for an artist, you're not. I'll say that the audience doesn't see everything that you write, because the artist is helping you out when it comes to writing your stuff. Because there's stuff you're going to explain to the artist and he's going to have to use, and then you have to figure out how to tell the story the written way as you are writing what the comic is. But it's a whole thing. Tell me a little bit about your process with that.
Well, I draw as well too, and so when I do my scripts, I think about it pretty visually. And then because you're constrained by how many panels you can have and how much information you can have on a page, you tend to not want to overwhelm the artist, and also give them some license to tell the story as well too, because you're almost like co-creators when it comes to storytelling. So I might be the first thread, but then they come in and they fill in a lot of stuff as well too. So I might describe just like the basic things or certain details that I wouldn't mind having, that need to be accentuated. and then they'll fill in all the rest depending on their art style, how like into detail they are. And I just want to go back into the role playing thing a little bit and comic books. The cool thing about comics was that you were actually able to role play depending on what stories you were reading. So if you want to be a science geek, you could read FF. If you wanted to be a tortured person, you could read The Incredible Hulk. Yep. If you wanted to be a paragon of justice, you could read Superman. And so every time you opened a page to a new comic book, you were actually entering into a new character.
Completely agree, which is why I grew up with Spider-Man, and the whole thing, Spider-Man grew up with me, which is what I loved, which is one of the reasons why people go, oh, the Spider-Man now? I'm like, no, it's not my Spider-Man. Right. My Spider-Man grew up, went to college, got married, and he did all those things at the same time I was doing them. And it was really important to see that, because it makes people talk about it all the time. People want to see stuff that they're going through, or they want to see themselves in these characters. And I understand that Spider-Man has to like stay, maybe not stay a certain age, but he has to stay a certain way. But at the same time, you sit there going, dude, come on, give me my Spider-Man.
I mean, right now it's just a refusal of editorial to do it, and that's pretty much what it is. Because the Ultimate Spider-Man comic is selling, like we've been telling them it's selling well. Sometimes it even sells better than Amazing Spider-Man, and he's married with children, and we've been telling them for years this is what we want. It's like, no, you don't want, you want this, but it's just And then there are other reasons, like above even them, like Disney, corporate, they want to keep Spider-Man the same. There are other reasons, but
But you end up with Charlie Brown when you do that.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Wah, wah, wah. So, Steve, tell the people who you are. Give them the spiel. Go for it.
All right. So I'm Steve Bynoe. I'm a writer artist located in Toronto, Canada, and I have a Kickstarter running for a book called Atrium. We are kind of finishing up the miniseries now. We kickstarted the first 3 issues starting in November of last year, and then we did 2 and 3 as a Kickstarter together to save our backers on shipping, and we did that in the spring, and now we have the Kickstarter for 4 and 5 to end the series. That's currently on, and I think it ends on October 22nd, so a couple of weeks are left in it.
Not bad. Okay, you're doing pretty well from going back up here. Let's see, 1836. That's not bad.
No, it's not bad. We reached our goal. I think we did in like 30 hours. And now it's just a matter of seeing if we can get some of our stretch goals, get some more backers. That'd be great. We've got really good feedback from a lot of the people that we've met at conventions. And we just had an in-store signing at a store here called Red Nails 2 in Toronto. And, it was great. If I can give the synopsis, and then we can go into that. So it's about Naomi and Darnell, who are 2 paramedics, and they are tasked with delivering a donor heart to a mysterious and important patient. They and their security detail en route are intercepted by a group of deadly assassins who just happen to be vampires.
Okay.
Yes. I'm in.
Good. And that's kind of the reaction that we get a lot of the times, where it's like, ooh, that's cool. Okay. So we know we're on the right track. The feedback we've gotten from issues 1 to 3 have been fantastic. Our backers are great. Without them, we wouldn't have any of these issues available to the public. And we just are, really focused on landing the plane, as they say, and bringing in the last 2 issues to a fulfilling conclusion.
I got to say, this looks, the insides look great.
Yeah, our artist, Lucas Falapi, he's fantastic. He's out of Brazil, and believe it or not, we found him on Twitter before it became X. Another writer was asking for artists to send their portfolios in, and we had just lost an artist, and I decided, you know what, let me see if I can find somebody. And even though Toronto has a great artistic community, sometimes it's hard to find, the right fit for your project.
Which is important.
It's totally important. And Lucas brings a fantastic gritty style to the story, and it kind of fits perfectly with what we're trying to get across. And our colorists, we don't have any of the colored pages on this campaign, but in the previous campaigns, the preview pages are full of color. But our colorists are Nikos Koutsis and Mike Torres, and they color Savage Dragon for Image Comics.
Oh, nice. I have to say,
we've got
I'm looking at the black and white, and I thought that's the way the book was, and I was fine with that.
You know what? It does work. It does work in black and white.
Yeah, the inking is amazing. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like this. I'm like, oh, cool. It's an interesting style to go with, but it all stands out. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's great. Our letterer, Greg Parkin's fantastic. My co-writer and co-creator, Peter Van Horen. It's a pleasure working with him. And I would remiss if I didn't talk about Vaughn Joseph, who is kind of like the man in the chair for us. And he does all the design work. He puts together the files, and he created the font for Atrium.
Nice. I like what you have. I like what you're doing. And like I said, that says a lot. If you can look at the black and whites and go, ooh. You know, because sometimes the black and whites, you're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a style that's hard to do.
No, I think if you have line art that doesn't have a lot of blacks, then you're really relying on the colorist to really fill in a lot of information. And we're really lucky that Lucas kind of had that. He even told me before we agreed to work together that he deals more with suspense and horror. And if you take a look at the cover there, that's going to be colored, but the black and white version of issue 4's cover, it's just stunning. That's the way that it is.
There's so much depth. It's great.
Yeah. Because even in black and white, like I said, here we go again. Even in black and white, look at this stuff. It just stands out.
Yeah, no, he's really good. And we got lucky in that our variant covers, we didn't really want to do a lot of variant covers, but we decided to go down that route anyway. But the artist that we've got for our variant covers throughout the run of the miniseries has been phenomenal. And for issue 5, we have Marco Rudy, who's done work for Marvel and DC and Boom. And I think if you scroll down a little bit further, you'll get the image that he has for his cover, and it absolutely slaps.
I gotta admit, I love this one, but I'm a gamer.
That's Lucas. Lucas did that one. It's a painting, and it really, really works.
I'm a gamer, and this just calls to me. Let's see.
Yeah, so that's the one.
Wow. That's
wow.
Awesome.
Yeah. It feels very Resident Evil.
You know what's funny? Because I was at the shop on Saturday, and someone who had read the first issue was like, I wasn't quite sure where this story was going. And this is before he knew vampires were involved. And he says, sounds like it felt like a Resident Evil story. And I was like, well, if we're, evoking that kind of a feel, then that's high praise, because Resident Evil is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
I was getting Blade vibes. Reminds me of a little bit of Blade.
Yeah, you can't, like, anyone who is an MCU fan or a fan of pop culture, Blade has to get its just desserts and its proper due, because that really kicked off everything that we were watching for the last 20 years almost.
And it was good. It was a good vampire world. It was different. It wasn't. It's not like all the cookie cutter stuff.
Right. Yeah, and you can't go wrong with Wesley in a trench coat with attitude, right?
Yes,
never.
I loved them in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh yeah,
that was fun.
I guess.
I teach a dissection class. I really appreciate, and we dissect hearts. I really appreciate the title of your book. I get your joke. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was one of those ones where it's like, because when we changed artists, we had to change the story a little bit. And so the previous title was great, maybe a little bit too on the nose, but we had to decide to go with something else. And, I'm a former teacher, so I totally get where you're coming from. We're talking about the students and, doing D&D and, trying to engage them.
Yeah.
And, I just dug into a thesaurus and was like, okay, what can I pick that kind of hits what we're doing with? And since you're dealing with a heart, I went down that route.
I gotta say, it's funny that you're, because I read when I was reading your stuff, when I was going down the rabbit hole. In other words, I was like, oh, former teacher, and it bugs me out because I've been running into a lot of teachers in the space.
Right.
A lot of former teachers, a lot of regular teachers. They're now doing all the geek stuff, which is funny to me because when I was a kid, those were the first people telling you not to read any of that stuff, not to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like now you got all these teachers actually out there going, I got my own comic, I got my own thing, and it really bugs me out.
That's our generation, man. We grew
Sure.
up, we became teachers, and that's
totally it. Like I wouldn't do my homework. Don't tell anybody students this. But I would watch like Battle of the Planets. I would come home and catch up on $6 Million Man.
Yep.
Stuff like that. And I was an avid Spider-Man reader. So the majority of my collection is Spider-Man. And that's where I would bury my head once I got some of my homework done.
Yeah.
And now that we're, it's almost like we have a license to be free and enjoy the stuff as adults that we loved as kids. Yeah. And we all grew up on this stuff, whether it's Star Wars, Star Trek, D&D, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And it's so funny because now it's so easy to be out there in the open. Like I said, even Frank was always, Andrew was always here talking about the fact that, playing D&D in a Catholic high school was threatening explosion. Yeah, D&D and the church weren't exactly friends for a while.
No. But just think of cosplay, right? Think of cosplay.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have that. We had I remember I was begging my mom, because I was born in 71, so this had been around late 70s. I was begging my mom for a Spider-Man outfit. And back in those days, all you had...
Did you get the yellow one? Did you get the yellow one with the...
No. It was the plastic half mask, which was terrible, where your eyes stuck out. Yeah. And then basically you're in this, plastic suit.
Outfit, yeah.
It was terrible. You almost looked like a Lego character.
Yeah. When I was a kid, it was like, you got the mask, but the suit was yellow, and it just said Spider-Man. It was the worst. It was the worst thing ever. And I see all these kids now look exactly like Spider-Man. They even got web triggers. I'm like, I hate all you kids, man.
No, man, the kids are living it up. They have their lightsabers. They're killing it now.
They get an actual Spider-Man outfit. I would have killed for one of those when I was a kid.
Yep. Have you seen that lightsaber that actually goes up?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, folks, we're geeks.
Well, I think it's like the same thing. Like our generation or people around our age, we grow up and we got to make this stuff, and we made everything that we should have got when we were young.
Well, and we also made a lot of children.
Yeah.
Who are now, right? And so now we're a couple generations in.
Yeah.
And so when I say to kids, "Oh, hey, you want to play D&D?" They're like, "Yes," because they know what that is. Yeah. Or their mom or dad says, "Oh yeah, your uncle played that," or I did, or whatever, right? And so I think it's really nice to be able to be like kids these days, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Right. And when I look around the tables of any kind of geek related thing that's happening at the middle school, it's not just like nerdy white dudes. Right. It's everybody, which I live in New Hampshire. So, I mean, but it's everybody, it's kids who are exploring their sexuality, it's boys, it's girls, it's right, and that's amazing, because that's not how it was, and some of those kids wouldn't have had a space. And now, one of the things about the internet that, for better or for worse, is it connects us to our people.
Yeah, often
it allows us to find them, and it's really neat to watch kids find their people either in person, in school, or somewhere else. And that is something we didn't get to have, and they do, and it's rad. I love it.
Completely love it. Okay, Wham, you're helping us show off our geekiness. So
yeah,
I have to get to you because dude,
I'm enjoying everything right now, man. I didn't know all this.
Love what you're doing. These stands, these things that you're making. They're just different and old at the same time. So it's a great mixture. Go ahead, give them the spiel. Go for it.
So my spiel. Okay, so I 3D print stuff, but I seek solutions for people. So a lot of so where it all started was a friend 2 years ago asked me if I can make him a stand, because I 3D printed stuff, I designed stuff. That was originally just from a video game that I would just kind of pull out, and I just enjoyed 3D printing. It was cool to kind of have these digital items kind of in physical form. So that was just really neat for me. And eventually a friend asked me to make him a comic stand. I worked just kind of with my local comic book store on trying to, just make sure the sizes was right and, were right. And, he just kind of gave me a bunch of tips because, obviously a comic book person would have all those kind of tips. So eventually and when I started posting them and kind of getting it out there, everybody really just took to it. Like everybody just really enjoyed the ideas that I was coming with. So I just kind of started running with it and everything. And eventually turned into a whole lot of different stuff. Like the thing you just showed was the spinner rack that I just came out with, which I think from the very beginning, I always wanted to do, because that I think is like quintessential, comics is a spinner rack, right? So that was one of the things I always wanted to do, and that I just recently
with you too. I have to say, I'm going down rabbit hole with you too. That is such a perfect thing for a table at a con.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was always kind of like, that was always in the back of my head, always kind of working on it from the jump. So like this is kind of like the comic, stand that we have now. And as everything that I do, like all of those are magnets that you can see. So this is where the comic book stand has come to now. It fits raw comics without a board or back, anything like that doesn't have to be in that. Graphic novels, it fits graded comics, it'll fit graphic novels, it'll fit hardcover books, anything about an inch, it'll fit. And one of the kind of my shtick, if you will, is these magnets that are every logo and everything you see is all magnetic, and they all fit on all the different products I make. One of the other products that I make is this microphone that you can probably see in the screen right now. This thing right here. And so what it does is, this is just like another one that I make. So you can fit any like wireless mic or wired mic, because there's a hole in the bottom. So like if you want to plug it into your phone or something like that. And this kind of came from just watching people on social media or anything, just holding just kind of looking silly with like a little mic,
I gotta say, I feel silly when I'm doing that. Yeah.
I didn't want to do that, so I didn't want to feel silly doing it, but I totally understand, and that's kind of also trendy, so I get it.
It is, because some of them have made their mark by doing that.
Totally right. So I'm not gonna knocking anybody for that. I just personally just kind of feel silly. So so I made this, and it's been really popular as well. The one you can see on my mic is I have come out with recently a bunch of different adapters for this is one of those kind of boom arms, and it'll also, I have one for all the different tripods that are out there. Nice. But yeah, so you can also see that this is a magnet as well. So if I wanted to change it,
I love that, because sometimes getting your logo on things is really good. And
yeah, so
3D print logos too, right? Because I saw somebody saying that.
Right, yeah. So that's kind of my main thing is making custom logos for people, changing them. One of the other things that I've recently got into is making a bunch of different text phrases. So giveaway, spec book, and on my website you can whatever phrase you want for particular style. There's 4 different styles currently. What I try to do is solve things for people that it's when you go to conventions, it's hard, everybody's book is flat, it's hard to kind of grab people walking by or anything like that. So I just try to figure out solutions for things like that, and the spinner rack was definitely one of them here that you can see. So one of the other cool things about the spinner rack is that that one you were seeing earlier, it's kind of one tiered, but you can stack them. So there you go. There's the stackable version one. That was. I
gotta say, when I saw this one, I was like, "Wow, this feels like you got one of those from a comic book store."
Right. So the whole hey kids comics. I always, as soon as I thought of the spinner rack and thought that I had to do just a homage, to the old spinner racks. I actually still have it. That person that won it is on vacation, so I haven't sent it out yet. But, but yeah, so I have it here, behind me and everything. So. Yeah, I mean, really, I 3D print stuff, but I use it as tools. And one of the other things I was actually going to mention when you say in your Kickstarter, I kept seeing the little box, and I would imagine, Steve, that the box is what the heart is in, right?
Yeah.
So what I've worked with a lot of people who do Kickstarters and make little gifts for people if you hit your goals. And what immediately came to mind was a little keychain of that, box, the little box.
That's
the heart,
perfect.
Stuff
we'll
like
talk,
that.
We'll talk afterwards. We'll talk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's so that's the kind of stuff I like to do. Like my motto for the business is like supporting, artists with innovation and integrity, so like I will use as much innovation as, innovative things as I could possibly come up with to try to support people to bring their creations to life, so I like supporting people like helping them solve problems, helping them add a little bit of flair to their comic book, to their setups, to their streams, whatever. Like that's kind of always, that's where my motivation lies pretty much. So, but yeah, no, I got a lot of stuff, like one of the other things that I just came out with too is these like so like these magnets, I refer to them as whamblems, wham and emblems because they're magnetic, because like it's a little system, right? So like they fit on the magnet, they'll fit on the microphone, they fit on the stands. It's kind of like a little system, right? So I refer to them as whamblems. So these are price blooms. But anyways, they're just pricing magnets is really all it is. So like, if you have like a comic book,
I know a lot of people that would love this.
So
you make it sound simple, but I know a lot of people that will be like, "Oh my god, that'll be so great."
Right. Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I've gotten quite the, feedback. It's been pretty awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's my spiel. That's Wham Stand.
Dude, I gotta say, man, like as soon as I saw this stuff, and I kept running into it because a lot of my friends, like Jorge here, you've been hitting a lot of other people I know, and I'm like, you ended up on my feet a lot.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, no, George is amazing. He was actually like my first customer, Jorge. He was my first customer, like first like actual. I didn't know him. He just bought stuff because he liked it. So, I love his stuff. He's great. Wonder Duck is such an amazing comic. If you haven't read it, completely.
So, and you make it look even better. Look at that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so that was like, it's kind of like a slab, if you will. It's like a little protector that you could slide a book in and out of, and it was one of the early ideas that I came out with and forgot I had it, so I figured I
gotta admit, I don't like comic coffins, but this looks cool.
For sure. No, I totally understand that. They're cool. Everybody has their own thing, and that's the one thing I always like. As soon as I got into the comic, community, or just started, really interacting with people from the comic community, it's so large, it's so vast. There's just so much room for everybody's style, and there's and somebody will like it out there. If you put your style out there, somebody's gonna like it.
Yep.
Just do it. It is really all it comes down to, and that's the really cool thing about the comic community that I'm like so blessed to just have such people just supporting me, I guess, really is what it comes down to.
Garrett's like, we may need to get a Tabletop EDU logo as Wemblem.
For sure. Absolutely. No, I was looking at it, I was looking at you guys' book. I was wondering how thick it was, because I'm sure it would, I think it could fit down here, and that'd be kind of cool. And I was actually going to hit you guys up because or even just look more into the tabletop community, because I've heard a lot of people have reached out to me about certain things, and I just I don't know what to make because I'm not in that community, or I haven't really seen it. So
dude, I already can see
so much.
I can already can see this. A DM, a nice little DM board thingy. I think if you made a personalized one with all this magnetic stuff and stuff, the DMs would love you.
Okay, cool. I'll have to get some more info about that.
Initiative order.
Exactly, initiative order.
That'd be so great.
Who's where, what's the HP.
There you go. Cool.
If only Rome and Tony were here to talk to us about this.
Oh,
is he stuck back there? Oh my god.
Roman. You'll never learn anything else about the Wham Stand. Sadly for you.
I gotta say, I can't see you when I'm on the other board, so I kept hearing something pop in and out, and I was like, I'm not sure what's going on, but you guys are fantastic. I love all the stuff that you guys have put together. It's just amazing. Maryanne, Garrett, tell the people one more time where they can find you. All the good stuff. Go for it.
Yeah, you can find us on tabletop.edu.org. It's probably the best place where everything is. Probably the best way to engage us right now is on Discord. We have like 200 educators or people interested in doing applied tabletop RPGs. They're not all educators, but they're interested in kind of taking their tabletop RPG hobby or interest to the next level. And it's just an awesome community. So we've only been going for a month, and it's just kind of starting to blow up.
Nice.
And the Kickstarters were in pre-launch, and we're hoping to launch in like 10 days, 2 weeks. Our art director was affected by the hurricane down in Georgia, so he's been without power for a long time. So we got
another one heading to Florida right now. So
yeah.
When you guys are gonna launch this, come back on the show. We'll show it off again.
Thank you. No, this has been a blast. You guys are fantastic. I love the show. Like that, the live energy is popping. Like when the countdown goes and like the intro to the show, that is so much fun.
I appreciate that. We try. I love showing things off. People keep telling me to focus the show because Ralph, you're not gonna do well if you keep doing what you're doing. You need to focus. I'm like, I like a lot of things. I'm not focusing none. I show off everything I like, and that's my thing. Steve, tell the people where they can find you, all the good stuff. Go for it.
So you can find the Kickstarter campaign at Kickstarter. It's the Atrium 1 to 5 Kickstarter campaign. And you can find me on Instagram at Steve Bynoe Art. And you can also find Atrium at Comics Asylum, both on Instagram and www.comicsasylum.com.
I got to say, folks, go check him out. This book has a lot of beautiful vibes to it. And it's funny because I keep coming back as a gamer going, I think I need to see this book as a game.
That would be cool. It's got a lot. There's a lot of characters in it. There's action, suspense. It's got everything for everyone.
They have it, folks. They got 15 days to go. 26 backers, and they're 1855. I think that's higher than before.
Yeah, I think we got one. So thank you to whoever just supported us. That's fantastic.
That was us. That was at least one.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
folks.
That's that bitten apple bump. There you go.
Yeah.
Are we rating bitten apple today? Or I don't know.
Exactly. Support indies. Everybody doing the Kickstarter is trying to put a passion out there. Nobody's trying to make money off of Kickstarter. Nobody's making money off of Kickstarter except for the big guys, and they got to make millions of dollars in order to make money. And I'm telling you, go help indies out. Indies is the place to be, folks. Right, Wham, go.
I've had a blast learning about all of this stuff today, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. You guys can find me at whamstand.com is my website. Or I'm super active on Instagram. So Wham Stand, WHAMSTAND. And like TikTok, X, you can find me on all those different places, but mainly Instagram is where I kind of show most of the things I do, and whamstand.com. Yeah, thank you for checking out all my stuff. I appreciate it, and I look forward to talking with all of you more because I have some great ideas.
Instagram, you can see all this beautiful stuff there, right? Like I've been showing it off all from his Instagram.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and this guy, Vandal Volumes, he makes amazing videos. Like he's awesome. So.
Yeah, when I saw him put this together for you, I was like, "Whoa, I got to share this."
Yeah, he's super cool. He's surprisingly like right near me too. So you'll definitely see some more videos from him. So he actually was the one who won the Hey Kids comics spinner rack. So
cool.
Yeah, so probably see a cool video of that.
Exactly. Oh, you will. As soon as he gets it, he's gonna be like, "Oh, guys, look what I got."
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. He's pretty excited for sure.
And folks, yeah, that's how exciting it is to get one of these things from Wham. Dude, just your logo alone, it's a lot of fun.
It's super fun. Thank you. It's super fun to, just like the magnets and making the magnets. I think I've had an affinity for magnets because, like, my mom had the fridge, covered in magnets. So I love them. They're fun. They go on your fridge. You can put them anywhere, really. So it's super fun.
Well, that's the fun thing about magnets, and as a kid, that's what we do. We used to have all that fun with whatever magnets were on the fridge.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Play them around, mess with them. You know, the little letter ones and stuff for sure. Make little bad words.
Oh yeah, bad words. I have whole battles on the fridge.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Role play things off the fridge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Mickey, what do you think?
It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
All right, Queen of Darkness. Tell the people who you are. Give them the spiel. Let them know who you are. Go for it.
First, I want to apologize for being so quiet this entire time. I was just really listening to what everybody had to say, even though my head kept flipping side to side. It's because there's paranormal things happening around me at the moment. But I really love everybody, what they have going on. Really, really cool. So, sorry. I am the Queen of Darkness, a dream within a scream, Paraflix's horror hostess with the ghostess. Paraflix is a paranormal and horror streaming network. Brings you all things paranormal and horror. Paraflix Paranormal Plus. If you go to the website paraflix.com and use code QOD30, you could get 30% off your annual subscription. I'm also a dark poet writer, I guess, an author. My book is being edited right now, my next book. I'm a paranormal investigator, a medium, automatic writer. I'm in the cast of Dark Echoes Paranormal. So anyway, if you want to find me, you can find me on those things, or you can follow me on my social media. I'm on Facebook as Velma Von Dinkenstein, the Queen of Darkness. On Instagram and TikTok, it's a dream _ within a scream. And I don't know, I do things, a lot of things.
She's a Jill of all trades.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time concentrating. Like, things have been moving around here the whole time, and that doesn't normally happen that often here where I am now. So it's interesting.
I gotta say, you know, I know I can see that Paraflix, it's gotten some of the old shows from other things, right? Has it been able to get all of them, or just certain ones?
Oh, I think some of them are they have to wait for a little while before they can go on anything else. But the shows they have, I really enjoy. They give your everyday people a chance to put their stories out there and share it with a network and somebody that'll support them. And I think it's really cool that it's not just about the big names and the big mainstream shows, you know? Yeah. So I really love that. And it, you know, it's definitely, and a lot of those shows are really, really, really cool. Right now I am watching The Haunted Files and Wild West Paranormal. It's really cool. And I just watched The Dweller. It's a movie. So they have a lot of different things that they offer on there. It's not just movies and TV shows. They have podcasts and other things, music. It really has a lot to offer. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff, I tell you.
So they also are getting some of the because I know there's a lot of people out there, and I follow a couple people, and I know a couple people that are doing their own ghost hunting stuff. So Paraflix has been able to get some of those shows as well, right?
I think so. I'm not sure where all of them came from, to be honest with you. I should have done that homework better, but I just know that they are good shows.
Well, they definitely are, because they're, like you said, there's a lot of people out there doing this, and some of them are actually recording what they're doing. So yeah, it's good to see them get a chance to put their stuff up.
Yes.
And we weren't ignoring our friend Shannon. She's the guest host, so you know, and I had a feeling something was going on with her over there. So I was like, okay, we'll figure it out later.
Yes, it's not about me tonight. For once. For once, I could put myself aside. No, it's really ghosty here tonight. Super spooky. I don't know. I've been trying to find them with my lantern, but I lost my magnifying glass. So,
is it just today, or is it just because it's October, Halloween,
and good question.
or something, or is it just today?
That is a good question. I think I'm haunted, so it's all, but not usually here. And I think that's because there's usually other people like about, so I don't notice it. Maybe it is because it's Halloween spooky time.
Yeah.
I do know that
things have happened here. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as much that's been happening. I hear things moving around out there. Something's knocking over here. It's just, whatever. Have fun. They want to come hang out. I guess they're excited. Yeah. Maybe it's your energy. You all have wonderful energy that you brought to the show tonight. So maybe they were like, hey, hey, these things sound fun. I didn't get to play, video games to learn when I was
I can see that.
5 back in 1602.
Wow, 1602.
I always go to the 1600s. That's where I feel most comfortable. What can I say?
Yeah.
Hey, that's my calendar that I'm a part of. Well, it's not my calendar. That was an idea from Brittany and Monique to come together for a really good cause. And it goes, you can see all the information if you go to my site and you can purchase a calendar. It all gets donated.
It's so funny that so many of the spirits are just seem from the Victorian era or from specific time in the past. I'm wondering where are the spirits, with the hip hop, the baggy pants, and where are they?
They're lazy. They have the money. They're laying down on their cell phones, their little ghost phones, yelling at each other on social media.
I have to say,
about who haunted who the wrong way.
Exactly. The longer you're around, the more energy you have to use. So maybe that's what it is,
They're just, they're just bored. Snoozing.
I've been out for 500 years, man. I can do whatever I want, man.
They're all hanging out together somewhere. We're not invited because they, it's how.
Yeah, maybe they figured it out a little bit more. I don't need to haunt anybody. I'm gonna go to the next level. I'm gonna.
Oh no! Yeah. I'm haunting everyone. Wow. Everyone that I've ever met or came across.
I tell that to my friends all the time.
I will haunt their dreams. I will haunt their children's dreams and their children's children. People will fear me for decades to come. I'm so excited for that to happen. Just know that. I will haunt them.
I gotta say, I say that
to my friends. I would just like to play pranks on people. I think that would be so much fun. Just a little stuff hey, where's my stapler? I'm like, just a little stuff.
Stapler. Sorry, I was
so it's your fault.
You've been doing anything.
Where's the remote control? Little stuff. Just have some fun.
You just got to pile everybody one spot.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I tell my friends all the time, I'm like, oh, I'm coming back and I'm gonna haunt your ass.
I do have a prank ghost. It pranks me all the time. Every time I have to leave, it hides something from me and I lose my mind and I feel like I've lost my mind. Like today, I was a little bit late because I could not find my key to get in here because I knew I had my key, but I did not have it with me. So I called someone to bring it to me. And as soon as they got here, I found it. I didn't tell them that, though. I did not tell them that.
Yeah.
That I was just like, thank you. Thanks.
You gotta love it. Let's see. I think I want one more thing to show off here for you guys. Phil Rustert has his beautiful monster book out right now, Arcane Syndicate, and folks, go check it out if you like the old monsters of yore. This book does a good job at using them. And right now he's at 2,632, 71 backers, 24 days to go. Go check out Arcane Syndicate. It's pretty good. If you like those universal monsters, I think you'll like this. All right. Cool. Anybody else got anything to say before we go?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was amazing meeting everyone. Everyone's got some great stuff going on, and I had a great time.
You guys are all welcome to come back and share whatever you're sharing, or just hang out with us. If you want to guest host, you can go, hey, Ralph, I want to come on and guest host.
Just hang out.
I always love it when people can geek out.
Nice.
It's not an easy thing, folks. It's not an easy
It's not easy doing it in front of other people.
I think that's what it is, because you know there's times where we'll have somebody on, and I know they're a geek, and they're like, "So Ralph,
Hey.
hi, okay," and I'm like, "Dude, we geek out all the time."
Gotta let your geek flag fly, baby.
Exactly. Just geek, folks. Just geek.
Why am I so far away?
I don't know. I've always been trying to figure it out.
Yeah, earlier you seem really far away. Now you're a lot closer now.
Yeah.
I had to sit on the edge of my seat.
Well, that's
now
what
I'm
it is.
Close. Now I'm too close.
We had to keep you at the edge of the seat, man. Come on.
I just looked like a little shrunken head in the background.
Yeah, all the spirits wanted to be in the foreground.
That's what it was. All the spirits are like trying to get.
We can't see them, unfortunately. But.
All right, folks. Hope you guys have had a lot of fun. Go check these people out. They're fantastic. And on this show, when things end, we do this.